Hello students, this lecture is in continuation with my previous lecture on road transport. In the previous lecture, I discussed with all of you about the road transport system in India, and in this lecture I am going to discuss the railways transport system in India. After this lecture, you will be able to understand the factors affecting the railroads, the global rail networks, penetration lines, regional network, transportation lines such as distribution of railroads in the world, railways in different countries such as railways in United States, railways in China, railway in Russia, railways in Canada, Union and Pacific Railways, Chile and Argentina Railways, the Orient Railways, Australian transcontinental railways, Indian Railways, the establishment of Indian Railways, the facts about Indian Railways, privatizing Indian Railways, pros of privatizing the Indian Railways and what can be the negative side of privatization of Indian Railways, and at the end I will also discuss a way forward about it. So let me initiate the session. Railway transport is also known as train transport. It is means of transport on vehicles which run on tracks. It is one of the most important, commonly used and very cost-effective mode of commuting and goods carriages over long as well as short distances. Since this system runs on the metal, usually steel, rails and wheels, it has an inherent benefit of lesser frictional resistance which help attach more load in terms of wagons or carriages. This system is also known as train. Usually trains are powered by an engine locomotive running on electricity or on diesel. Complex signaling systems are utilized if there are multiple route network. Rail transport is also one of the fastest mode of the land transport. Rail transport has emerged as one of the most dependable modes of transport in terms of safety. Trains are fast and least affected by usual weather turbulences like rain or fog compared to other transport mechanisms. Rail transport is better organized than any other medium of transport. It has fixed route and schedules. Its services are more certain, uniform and regular compared to other modes of transport. Rail transport originated from human-hauled contraptions in ancient Greece. Now it has evolved in modern, complex and sophisticated system used both in urban and cross-country and continents too, networks over long distances. Rail transport is an enabler of economic progress, used to mobilize goods as well as people. Adoptions include passenger railways, underground or overground also, urban metro railways and good carriages is example of that. Rail transport has some constraints and limitations also. One of the biggest constraint of rail transport is heavy cost. Trains need high capital to build and maintain, and the cost is magnified when a whole network is to be built. The cost of construction, maintenance and overhead expense are very high compared to other modes of transport. Also, rail transport cannot provide door-to-door services as it is tied to a particular track. This is what I explained in my previous lecture also. Intermediate loading or unloading involves greater cost, more wear and tear and wastage of time. Now let me discuss about the factors affecting the railroads. The density of the railroads is affected by few factors. First one is the level of living standard and the scientific development. Second is the level of capacity to utilize the natural resources. Third is the size and density of population of a region. Fourth is nature of relief and topography. Fifth is the level of industrial and commercial development. These are the factors which affect the rail development. Now let me take you to the global rail network. The global rail network, which is mostly a collection of unlinked national rail system, involves three main types of rail lines. First one is penetration lines. Their main purpose is to link a port city with its hinterland, particularly to access natural resources such as minerals, agriculture products and wood products. The purpose of a penetration line is to convey large amount of material in manner that would be prohibitive for road transport. It also represented one of the initial stage of rail development, notably in the United States, which later became regional network linked by transcontinental lines. Today, penetration lines are mainly found in developing countries such as in Africa or Latin America, and were partially the result of the colonial era. Such areas have several gauge and limited cross-border connectivity and thus offer limited competitiveness with trucking. Penetration lines are also found in resource-intensive advanced economies such as Australia and Canada. Transporting freight is the dominant function of this type of network, although passenger traffic can be significant since penetration line can also be servicing an urban system. Now let me explain you the regional networks. They are servicing high density population areas of developed countries, intending to support the massive shipment of freight and passengers. Regions with the highest rail density are Western Europe, northeastern part of North America, coastal China and Japan. And the third one is transcontinental lines. These lines were mainly established to improve territorial accessibility and for setting off national sovereignty. The most relevant examples are in the United States, Canada, Russia and Australia, which have built rail systems of this scale, such as between New York and Los Angeles, across Eurasia between Dalian and Moscow, across southern Australia, Perth and Adelaide, or across South America. More recently, transcontinental rail lines have seen a renewal in interest by their capability to attenuate the discontinuity of maritime transportation by transporting containers such as over the North America, land bridge and Eurasia. They are a chain in the global intermodal transport system. Now let me briefly explain you the distribution of railroads in the world. So first I will start with railways in United States. The US rail network with an operating route length over 250,000 km is the biggest in the world. Freight lines constitute about 80% of the country's total rail network, while the total passenger network spans about 35,000 kilometers. The US freight rail network consists of 538 railroads, 7 Class 1 railroads, 21 regional railroads, and 510 local railroads, operated by private organizations. Union Pacific Railroad and BNSF Railway are amongst the largest freight railroad network in the world. The National Passenger Rail Network (Amtrak) comprises of more than 30 train routes connecting 500 destinations across 46 American states. A plan is in place to build a 27,000 km national highway speed rail system in 4 phases by 2030. Construction of California High-Speed Rail, the country's first high-speed rail project, was well underway by the beginning of 2014. 3 more high-speed projects, including the Midwest High-Speed Rail Line connecting Chicago with Indianapolis or St. Louis, Texas High-Speed Rail and Northeast High-Speed Corridor, are under development. So after US, let me take you to China. China's rail network, with a route length of over 1 lakh km, ranks as the second biggest rail network in the world. The extensive network operated by state-owned China Railway Corporation carried 2.08 billion passengers, the second highest after Indian Railways, and 3.22 billion tons of freight, the second highest after the US railway network in 2013. Rail is the principal mode of transport in China. The country's rail network consists of over 90,000 km of conventional rail route and approximately 10,000 km of high-speed lines. The total rail network of country is targeted to exceed 270,000 km by 2050. The rapid expansion of China's high-speed rail network in recent years marked it by far the largest in the world. The 2,298 km Beijing-Guangzhou high-speed line is the world's longest high-speed railway line. So after China, let me take you to Russia. Russia's whole network, operated by state-owned monopolies Russian Railway, which is known as RJD, runs for over 85,500 km. In 2013, the network carried 1.08 billion passengers and 1.2 billion tons of the freight, the third highest freight volume after the US and China. You may be aware of the Trans-Siberian Railway. This railway system lies in Russia. It is the longest railway to route in the world at present. It connects Asia and the Europe continent. Through its branches, it provides transport facilities from Moscow to Atlantic coast in the west to the Vladivostok along the Pacific coast in the east. It connects St. Petersburg, Moscow, Omsk and many other important cities in Russia. Trans-Siberian Railway is the most important route in Asia and the longest one. Double-tracked and electrified transport continental railway in the world. Conceived by Tsar Alexander III, the construction of the railroad began in 1891 and this proceeded simultaneously in several sections from the west and the east and across intermediate reaches by way of the Mid-Siberian Railway. Trans-Canadian Railways. There are two continental railway lines in Canada. The Trans-Canadian Railways, which run from Halifax in east to Vancouver on the Pacific coast, passing through Montreal, Ottawa and Calgary. It was constructed in 1886 and connects the Quebec-Montreal industrial region and the wheat belt of prairie region of the coniferous forest region in the north. This railway line is the economic artery of Canada through which wheat and meat are exported. After this, I will explain a little bit about Union and Pacific Railways. This railway line connects New York on the Atlantic coast to San Francisco on the Pacific coast, passing through Cleveland, Chicago and other important cities. Next, as I discussed in the beginning, that is Chile-Argentina Railway. It is the longest railway line in South America. It connects the Buenos Aires on Atlantic coast and the Valparaiso, a major port of the coast of the Pacific. The major junction along the routes are Mercedes and Mendoza. You may be aware of the Orient Railway. The Orient Express runs from the Paris to Istanbul, passing through the cities such as Strasbourg, Vienna, Budapest, Munich. These are the important centers in this particular continental railway. The next one in this line is the Australian Transcontinental Railway. This railway route is located in southern part of Australia, as the large interior part is desert. It connects Perth and Sydney. Now let me take you to the Indian Railways. Transportation is a major part of the Indian economy. The Indian Railways began its operation from 16 April 1853. The Indian transportation system is very important. Here we are going to discuss interesting details about the Indian Railway. On March 8, 2021, the first women driver of the Indian Railway, Surekha Yadav, drove all women-staffed Mumbai-Lucknow special train on the occasion of International Women's Day. As per Union Budget 2021, the Ministry of Railway has been allocated Rs 72,216 crore. Now you may be thinking how the establishment of Indian Railway took place. The first railway proposal for Indian Railways were made in Madras in 1832. The country got its first train in form of the Red Hill Railway, which was built with the sole purpose of transporting granite for road building. In 1845, the Godavari Dam construction railway was built by Cotton at 𝗹𝗏𝗪𝗏 in Rajahmundry to supply stones for the construction of a dam over the Godavari River. In 1851, the Sulani Aqueduct Railway was built by 𝗵𝗵𝗏 in Roorkee to transport construction material for an aqueduct over the Sulani River. India's first passenger train, operated by Great Indian Peninsular Railway and hauled by 3 steam locomotives, Sahib, Sindh and Sultan, ran for 34 km with 400 people in 14 carriages on 1676 mm broad gauge track between Boribandar, Mumbai and Thane on 16th April 1853. India's first railway bridges were built over the Thane Creek, where the Mumbai-Thane line was extended to Kalyan in May 1854. So this was the history about the Indian Railway. Now let me take you to different facts about the Indian Railway. The Fairy Queen is the oldest functioning steam engine in the world. It is plying between New Delhi and Alwar in Rajasthan. 4 sites of Indian Railway have been declared as World Heritage Site by UNESCO. They are Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, Nilgiri Mountain, Mumbai CST and Kalka Shimla Railway. So you must remember these 4 important railway lines. India's railways was nationalized in 1951. Toilets were introduced on Indian Railway in 1909. Indian Railways started computerized reservation in New Delhi in 1986. Indian Railways is the world's second largest network operated under a single administration and largest railway network in Asia. The railway runs more than 7,421 cargo trains carrying 3 million tons of freight daily. Indian Railways has gone into a select club of railway that includes China, Russia and the USA in carrying more than 1 billion tons of cargo yearly. According to Arkwright Committee, in 1920-21, the railway finances of India were separated from the general government finance in 1924. In 1994, the first live telecast of railway budget took place. Recent railway and general budget have merged. India's fastest train has successfully completed a trial run of at 160 km per hour on the route between Delhi and Agra in just 90 minutes. In 2000, Mamata Banerjee was the first woman to become railway minister. She holds the record of being the only woman who introduced the railway budget for the different government in the parliament. The Gatiman Express, New Delhi-Agra, is currently the fastest train. New Delhi railway station has the world's largest route relay interlocking system. Indian Railway is the world's 7th largest employer with 1.4 million employees on the rolls. The renewed platform at Gorakhpur railway station in Uttar Pradesh has become the world's longest, measuring 1,366 meters. Indian Railways is building the world's highest railway bridge, 5 times the height of Qutub Minar and 35 meters taller than Eiffel Tower. Indian Railway's longest tunnel is Pir Panjal that links Kashmir Valley with Banihal in Jammu. This is also an important point. Station with the shortest name is 𝗖𝗵 in Odisha. Since last many decades, privatization of Indian Railway is an important issue of debate. So let us discuss about the privatization of Indian Railways. Recently, the Indian Railways initiated the process to allow private firms to operate passenger train on its network through 151 new trains. While these trains will form minuscule portion of the entire railway network, this marks the beginning of the private sector privatization in passenger train operations. The privatization of Indian Railway has been recommended for many decades by the then Planning Commission of India and now by Niti Aayog. Liberalizing the entry of new operators in the public transport that remains a government monopoly may be the path for improving services and facilitating growth of the sector. However, the idea of privatization had its own merits and demerits. So let me discuss about the merits of privatization of Indian Railway. The first one is improved infrastructure. Niti Aayog's strategy for New India at 75 envisages many targets in railway infrastructure, such as increasing the speed of infrastructure creation from present 7 km per day to 19 km per day, 100% electrification of broad gauge track by 2022-23. Given this is a strong argument in favor of privatization is that it will lead to better infrastructure which in turn would lead to improved safety, reduction in travel time, etc. Now, second issue is the improved quality of services. Indian railway services are marred by issues like lack of punctuality, mismanagement in form of stinking washrooms, lack of water supply and dirty platforms. Privatization may solve these issues as the move would foster competitive and hence lead to overall betterment in the quality of services. The third issue is technology infusion. The privatization will also help in accommodating the latest technology in railway coaches, safety and travelling experiences. Thereby, it may help Indian Railway to become a world-class network. Now, let me discuss about the negative side of privatization of Indian Railways. Coverage limited to lucrative sectors. This is the first issue. An advantage of Indian Railways being government-owned is that it provides nationwide connectivity to bring regional development. This would not be possible with privatization since routes which are less popular may be neglected, thus having a negative impact on connectivity. It may also render some parts of the country virtually inaccessible and omit them from the process of development. For example, regions which rugged terrain and low population density like Himalaya state and northeastern states, they may be ignored. The third factor is increased fares. Given that private enterprise runs on profit, thus it may be assumed that the easiest way of availing the profit in Indian Railways would be to hike fares. This would render the service out of the reach for the lower income group. Also, this would defeat the purpose of Indian Railways, which is meant to serve the entire population of the country irrespective of the level of income. Second issue is the issue of cross subsidization. Indian Railways tend to cross subsidize the passenger fares through freight revenue. This transport to below cost pricing, which will make it difficult for private players to compete. Next one is conflict of interest. As we know that currently the Ministry of Railway is effectively the policy makers, regulator and the service provider. As per the 𝗪𝗡𝗪 committee pointed out, is a clear conflict of interest and would undermine the fair competition between private and government railway operations and impede the efficient privatization process of Indian Railways. Another issue is social welfare concern. That is also very important. As the Indian Railway plays a vital role in transportation of goods in the country, it provides a low cost of transportation of many final and intermediate goods. Thus, the privatization of the system motivated by profit making will have an inflationary effect and thereby affect the common people. So, what can be the way forward? The first one is sustainable pricing. There is a need to revisit Indian Railway pricing model to make the passenger and freight segment sustainable. The tariff should be competitive with the cost of road transport. The second is independent regulator. Setting up an independent regulator will be critical for creating a level playing field for private players. In this pursuit, there is a need to expedite the process of establishing the Rail Development Authority, as it is already approved by the government. The third is modernization of railways. There is a need to implement the recommendation of the 𝗪𝗚𝗑𝗵𝗵 Committee, such as expansion of the Indian railway manufacturing companies, corporatization of core functions of railways, etc. No doubt, railway is the backbone of transport system in the world. It is quite extensive and cheapest mode of transport. The need of the hour is to find a balanced solution that would incorporate the pros of both private and government enterprise and enhance the image of Indian Railway as it continues to serve the world's largest democracy.